So initially, especially in my literature classes and teaching reading classes, the texts that you pick are very, very important. They're probably your first step in starting a lesson. You pick what's the skill I'm going into and what's going to be my read aloud. You know, it's kind of the basic recipe to start with. And I realized in my class, the demographics of my school are very diverse. Well, I say diverse loosely. We have a large African-American population with Hispanic, and Asian, and white, of course, covers the gambit. And I was realizing that these classic texts that I was used to, that I had grown up to, were not reflecting my students. And a part of social justice, there's definitely a couple layers you can get into, and that's kind of what I talk to my kids about. You start at the first layer of loving and respecting everyone and seeing all the ways that people can live in this world and people can be in this world, and knowing and respecting that. So part of that is the classic literacy quote is that windows can be a window, a mirror, and a sliding glass door, meaning that kids, when they're reading literature, they are either seeing themselves in a text, they are able to view someone else's world in a text, or they're able to fully be immersed and step through that sliding glass door into somebody else's world and experience that secondhand. And so if your literature is not doing that on one of those three levels, then for all of your students, and something's not clicking and something is being left behind. So as far as social justice, the next layer would be, what are we going to do about that? And how does that affect people in their daily lives? So, for example, one of the ones that I did last year, in social studies in fourth grade, we generally start with Native American tribes, which can feel kind of contrite if you're not going into who these people are, what are they experiencing now. It's really fun to learn about teepees and totem poles as kids, but we don't want our kids growing up in a world where they don't realize that Native Americans still exist today in a beautiful array of different cultures and communities and tribes all over the US and all over the world. We want them to understand that they have thousands of broken treaties from the US government throughout history. We want them to understand what's happening on their reservations and things that, historically speaking, have affected them for hundreds of years. So usually what I do with my kids is we start with fun books. I have some here, like Fry Bread, the Native American history story. And even this has a good starting place for discussions about it as well. Because Fry Bread, even though it's part of many Native American families' traditions now, it also stems from the Trail of Tears and being placed on reservations and being taken away from all their indigenous foods and having to then be supplemented with flour and yeast and cornmeal and all this other stuff that wasn't as nutritious. So just with one kid's book about making frying bread and having a family baking can also go into so much painful yet important history that fourth graders can and should be able to digest and understand and talk about. And then we take that, did I pick up that book? We take that and we could talk about something like the Dakota Access Pipeline and the young water protectors and kids from the Lakota tribes who are doing the most that they can to protect their water and their life source. So we can read this absolutely gorgeous book called Water Protectors and talk about what are they doing now and what are they still fighting for, and how that we can be a part of supporting them in that, and just realizing that it's so much more than history. It's our current world experience. It's our current America is what this looks like right now. Yeah, and that's a lot, but it's something that kids are so much more enthralled with and so much more engaged with, and it's so much more meaningful. And you can talk about all your same main idea and details and author's purpose with real text that actually means something.